the entire tri-state area with entire neighborhoods underwater in New York City at this hour. We are covering every angle of it for you throughout the show on Weather Underground. I'm Alex Wilson.
And I'm Felicia Combs. New York's governor already declaring states of emergency for New York City, Long Island, and the Hudson Valley. And the threat for more heavy rain on top of what we've already seen, that's going to continue.
Yeah, we've got flash flood warnings that are in effect for 1 to 3 inches of additional rainfall in these areas. That rain is just training over the same spots. And it's not just light rain. The yellows, the oranges, the reds, indicative of that very, very heavy rainfall.
Yeah, we have just the worst type of setup to see the rain continue following over the same places over and over again, especially in an urban area like New York City. You're going to have issues.
You get the tropical influence too. Here's what we're talking about. Feet of floodwater inundating the streets of Brooklyn this morning. The commute, nightmarish, as you can imagine, and not to mention downright dangerous. You know, the heavy rain coming down. At times, rainfall rates 1 to 2 inches an hour or more. Now, all that water, it can't drain fast enough in these urban areas.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And that's why you're seeing images like this. Not the morning commute that you want at all. Rainwater streaming over the top levels of this parking garage. Almost looking like a waterfall, right? The storms and flooding wreaking havoc on travel in the Northeast with roads and major highways closed right now and hundreds of flights delayed or altogether canceled out of the New York City hubs.
Yeah, here's what else we know right now. New York's Governor Kathy Hochul has urged New Yorkers to stay home at all costs, saying if you venture out in your own vehicle, do so at your own peril. And getting around via public transportation, it's not an option either. We've got subway service suspended at many stations right now. Even access to LaGuardia's Terminal A is blocked at the moment because of flooding there. This kind of flash flooding is especially dangerous for people who live in basement apartments. We saw that during Ida. New York firefighters have already responded to a handful of calls. The flash flooding continues with more rain coming down in these areas. We look at the rainfall reports just over the last 12 hours, already the wettest day since that 2021 event, September 1st, back when we had what was left of Ida, of course, flooding the New York City metro area. Brooklyn, nearly 6 inches of rain has come down already. JFK Airport, over 4 inches. Central Park, about 4.5. LaGuardia Airport, 1 3/4 inches in 12 hours. And East Rockaway there in New Jersey, nearly 3 3/4 inches. Past 24-hour rainfall at JFK Airport, and we're looking at the rainfall rates as well. We've seen those rainfall rates between 1/2 inch and 1 inch an hour, and that has allowed us to pile up the rainfall totals. 12-hour totals about 5.5 inches, 24-hour totals nearly 6 inches of rain. So no question as to why we're seeing the flooding that we have ongoing right now. As you can imagine, that has translated into delays at the airport. So LaGuardia, JFK, we got the red. That means major delays. Newark running moderate delays. The heavy rain continues to be focused over JFK, over LaGuardia, so things aren't going to get any better anytime soon. And when we look at the big picture, you can see that feed of tropical moisture coming in off the Atlantic. Remember, we have what's left of Ophelia, so that tropical moisture has been lingering. We've got our upper low that's been moving into the area. That's deepening off the coast. And so with an area of low pressure, plentiful moisture, we've got a worst case scenario for big time rain showers, not just across the New York metro area, but up into sections of southwestern Connecticut, upstate New York. And you notice that very heavy rain into parts of Massachusetts, southern New Hampshire as well. But right now, we've got all those warnings overlaid upon one another here. Kings, New York, Manhattan, and Queens counties under a flash flood warning until 2:30. Considerable threat on this, which would indicate we're upping the ante from just a regular flash flood warning. We have seen flooding ongoing and not minor flooding. We've seen some major flooding happening in Manhattan and surrounding areas. Out on Long Island, Kings, Nassau, and Queens counties under a flash flood warning until 2:45. This includes Hempstead and Oyster Bay. Up towards the White Plains area, we've got a warning there. The Bronx, New York, Manhattan, Westchester counties under a flash flood warning. Considerable threat on this one as well. Darien, Connecticut, Bridgeport, Connecticut, Danbury, Connecticut, also under flash flood warnings with moderate rain falling still in these areas. Fairfield and Westchester counties under a flash flood warning until 1:30. I would anticipate some of these to get extended because, again, the rainfall's still coming down. Last 12 hours, you can see plenty of areas in that 3 to 5 inch range. Again, 12-hour totals with that much pavement in the area. That water is just not able to run off, or it is only able to run off. It's not able to absorb. So you're getting that water just rushing to those low spots. 4.3 inches, 4.7 inches out on parts of Long Island just within the last 12 hours. So as you can imagine, the reports have been coming in fast and furious. At LaGuardia, the airport fuel farm is flooded. It's unusable at the time, so that's just adding to the delays. Coney Island, we've got a school that's being flooded and evacuated. In Flatbush, multiple cars stranded, water up to the windows on Prospect Expressway. And in Jackson Heights, we've got flooding on the runway in runway drive, both directions, 94th Street to Marine Terminal Road. So roads are flooded, airports are flooded, schools are flooded, buildings are flooded. You're getting the drift. Fordham, we've got portions of Metro North Harlem and New Haven service suspended in both directions. So we've also seen public transit take a hit. Jackson Heights, all westbound lanes closed on the Grand Central Parkway. And in Bayside, the Cross Island Parkway, that is flooded as well. So that's why the governor is saying, stay put. It's just going to be a hassle. You're not going to be able to get anywhere you want to get because of the number of roads that are just downright impassable at this time. Rainfall needed to flood in just 1 hour. This is called flash flood guidance. Obviously, the higher numbers mean you can handle more rain. Well, we're in that ½ inch to 1 inch range around a lot of the New York metro area, at the very least 1 to 2 inches, and we're getting that per hour out of some of these rain showers. So we could see very well much more flash flooding before things come to an end. Upstate parts of Jersey, parts of Southwest Connecticut, Felicia, also dealing with that very low flash flood guidance. We know we've got more on the way, and flood watches remain in effect through tonight.
And an important part of this, Alex, is part of your commute might be just fine. You might be able to head out and you're like, oh, this isn't that bad. And then you get to those very low-lying, flood-prone spots, and all of a sudden it's a totally different story. So your best bet is to stay in if you can. Let's time this out for you. We already saw some of those flash flood warnings that we have ongoing, and they're not going anywhere for a while because we've got waves and waves of rain continuing. We're not talking about just light rain either. We're talking about pockets of heavy rain across these areas that have already seen several inches. That's continuing into tonight. Now, you'll get some breaks here or there, but overall, you've got that chance for rain lasting into early Saturday as well. I cannot stress this enough. This is a broad brush forecast here where you're seeing the 1 to 2 inches. You are going to have locally higher amounts. You could see several more inches, especially with the rainfall rates of 1 to 2 inches that we're seeing with some of that rain that's already coming down. Let's take a look up into Connecticut, out through Rhode Island. You can see some of our heaviest rain that we have right now, stretching back towards Salisbury, up through Chicopee. But even that light rain, when you have that consistent feed of moisture over the same places, that can add up and cause you some flooding issues. You see that feed of moisture continues. Here's today, 6 o'clock, so a lot of people getting off work. Maybe you went into work and it was just fine. You're getting off of work and you're seeing flooded roads. The rain is coming down. The traffic is slow. There's ponding on the roadways. So just a lot going on. You want to make sure you are giving yourself a bit of extra time. And if you are in this area, if you're in Hartford, Providence, and you know there are certain places or certain roads that flood really easily, if you can avoid those, like if you're coming home from work and you have to be out, you're just trying to get home, but you know there's that one street that always floods, it's really low lying. Avoid that if you can. Take a different route. Now, that's not saying you won't run into any flooding, but maybe you can avoid some of the worst of it if you know where it typically floods. Again, broad brush forecast here from Hartford out through Providence, up through Webster. Generally 1 to 2 inches, but certainly higher amounts going to add up there when you get some of that heavier rain training over the same areas. Doesn't look quite as impressive, right? When you look down toward Atlantic City or Little Egg Harbor, most of that rain displaced off to the north, but it is going to pick up. And we expect to have some flooding issues around this region as well. You can see, especially for coastal areas, you've got some of that rain moving in. But watch how this swath starts to fill in overnight and into early Saturday, and you have that rain coming down. Now, not the same type of rain that we're seeing a bit farther north, but still going to cause some issues for places like Atlantic City and Long Beach, where we've already had the coastal flooding issues. The soil is really wet, Alex. So adding anything across much of this region is problematic.
Absolutely.